Hello everybody, here is Erica from MNE Oslo. This webinar is about advanced use of pivot tables. The main topics that we would be covering during this webinar will be the main goal was to show you how to find data in the data entry form using pivot tables. We also discussed some concepts in GORS, such as data element, indicator, and dataset. We present different types of data available in the pivot table under the tab Data, and we discuss what it is and what it means, and we went on how to play around with pivot tables. The main structure of this webinar was based on some questions I have received from the field, so we talk around those topics. First, how to see all the indicators used within a certain project and to pull the values for a time period that I specify. How to see different country office data or field office data if you're in the field against a single indicator for comparative and aggregation purpose. How to see all indicators used in a country office with associated values, and what is the difference between indicators, data sets, data elements, event data items, program indicators, and when to use all data elements. So let's get started with the webinar. Thank you very much for participating and for your interest.
So I will start explaining a little bit in GORS some different concepts and difference, so you get a bit more familiar. But before we go direct in GORS, I just wanted to show you again where you find all the resources, learning resources, and where we are posting the things related to GORS. So in SharePoint, we have now the GORS Global Help Desk, that there is a part that is for support and there is a part that is for learning resources. If you want to take the best on how to use it, there is a short tutorial here with a video that show what is in each part, how to use each part of the GORS Global Help Desk. And also we are posting here all the events that are programmed and some deadlines also. These dates are also shared on the workplace, is a Facebook at work, and some messages will be sent with specific dates now and then. So the next Wednesday for GORS will be on the 18th September, and this one we don't have the theme yet. So please send me your suggestions, because the idea is to make something flexible and democratic where we can see topics that you would like to have more information. It was the case today. We chose topics that the users asked us to present. So for the learning resources, if you click here or here on the top, you will see what is available in our page. So at the moment we have 2 parts. It will be 3 parts because I will include the webinars separated from the tutorials. Because the tutorials normally they are formed by short videos and showing how to do inside GORS, and text with explanations and screenshots that you can come back whenever you need more information. And the webinar will be what we are doing now, so it will be 1 hour long with everything we did together during the presentation. Again, in the learning resources, you will have all the manuals that were developed. And in the case now that we are what we are doing now will be the manual how to use pivot table in GORS. This one, there are 11 pages, but it's lots of screenshots well explained what, where, and how to use pivot table. And this will help you when you are using pivot table yourself, and if you forgot a small detail, will help you to find back how to create yourself a good pivot table. We are developing the frequent asked questions, so please send me your questions and we can add to our frequent asked questions page. And for the Global Help Desk, this is just a short introduction. You can see more if you just log in and watch the tutorial on how to best use it. For the GORS, so here I will be using a profile from Iraq again. So I'm a normal user like you. This morning we created this colorful dashboard together using pivot table. Now we will go only for a more specific use of a pivot table. Sometimes it happens that you have a data in GORS that you find in the pivot table, but you cannot find in GORS. This is because the data in the data entry form has a specific structure, and if you don't copy exactly what was used when the data was entered, you cannot find it. So this will be the main goal today is how to use a pivot table to get there. And to answer some specific questions from Ruth that are starting with understanding the difference between some names you use in GORS. So when you get in the pivot table, you will see in the top, the first field you need to fill in is data. And when you click here, you have indicators, data elements, data sets. Those are those we use the most, actually use those two the most. Inside GORS, indicator means output, no, outcome, sorry. It means that we need to calculate something. An indicator will be a measure divided by other measure. So normally it's percentage. So a percentage of female participating to this meeting will be the total number of females divided by the total number of participants. So we have a calculation. This will be an indicator inside GORS. A data element is the part that enters in the calculation. So will be the total number of female in this meeting. This is a data element. And the total number of participants is another data element. So the difference between them is this. Data element will be output, and indicator inside GORS is outcome. The data set. So what is a data set? A data set actually is the form you will enter the data. So when you create a data set, you are creating a form. It's a bit like if you think about your telephone and you think about the contacts. You have a form that will put the name, the telephone, the address. So the data set is the form and the data is the name, the telephone, and the address. So this is the difference. So when you talk about data set, we are talking about the form where we set the data we want to be reported. I hope it clarifies. If not, let me know. So I'm reading the question, sorry, because it's a lot. So she would like to know the difference between indicators, data sets, data elements, event data items, program indicators, and when to use all data elements. So when you open here, normally I use data elements. When I select the group, there are lots of possibilities. These are disaggregations, actually. These are disaggregations and the core competencies. So if I go direct on education, I will have all education indicators. The global donor indicators, the harmonized indicators, the mandatory indicators, but all for education. If I go for information, these will be all indicators in ICLA that are part of information services. Normally, the one I use most here is direct going and output. What is confusing here is that you see outcome. When you see outcome here, is because there was a time with some local indicators that we would create an outcome that they would enter the percentage directly without the calculation. So we could not create this one under indicators. We had to create under data element. But now you can see that is empty because Iraq has no access to the local indicators of other country offices. Remember, I'm in Iraq here. Normally, when I do pivot table, I like to click here and output. And then I will have all outputs that are in the system. And I will use the filter to decide each one I want to use. With the filter, you can use like a theme, one keyword, or enter directly the code. So for example, if I want to choose indicators for education and I put GLE, I will have GL, global, E, education, and it will show me all education indicators that are in the system, that mandatory indicators. And then I can go down and select what I want. If I know that I want to do only about one specific education program, then I can go here, instead of taking output, I go for the specific, for example, alternative education, I go to the specific team. And then I will have everything with AE at the end, that is alternative education. Any questions up to now? If there is any questions, please raise a hand and let me know. So I'm going in alternative education. Let's keep with, since I'm doing everything on enrollment, so let's go on enrollment. So for enrollment, I just put a piece of the keyword, and I have here already 2 indicators. So the number of learners enrolled and the number of enrolled learners who attend a minimum of 80% of timetabled sessions. So I can select the indicators I want to see the data by just double clicking or by clicking and using the arrows on the top. So if I go back to outputs, I can also, sorry, click wrong here, by clicking on this one, I can also see if there is anything else that is not accelerated education that has enrollment. So here I have education in emergencies, youth program, and I have others that the last letter here will tell you the theory of change. So I have lots for youth. I have a harmonized one that is not defined which theory of change, that is to give flexibility. But since we don't have yet data on those, I will not use those. I will start with these 2, and let's see if the Iraq has data for those. And then for the period. The period, you can use relative period or absolute period. If you want a relative, like here, last 4 quarters, it will take from July, end of July, until August last year. So this one has the advantage that will be always updated. So if I choose, for example, this year, then I will have 2019. But in some months, this year will become 2020. So this part of the dates use relative dates. I can take this month, the last 6 months. This will be always updating with the data relative. But if I want to do really a specific report that I want to define which year will appear, I click here on yearly, and then I have the option. We don't have data until, we have data from 16. It's not completely, but the good data we have is from 17, 18, and 19, just for information. I can also go monthly. So if I want to go 2019, it comes by default to this year. But if I click previous years, I will have 2018. And I can choose the data, the dates that are interesting for me. Important to know that we don't have the settings or the possibility to create the settings for the triennial report. So to calculate for the triennial report, we need to take it monthly and do the calculation, unfortunately. I think it's only NRC that is using to report only 3 times per year, so it makes a bit more difficult. So if I take the data from 2019, I can choose the months here by selecting. If I hold the shift key, select many, and then I can move them, or I can move the full year if I want, because I have targets and actuals, or I can go on the this year relative, can even have this year and last year if I want. This is mandatory. We need to choose the data, the dates, sorry. And we need to choose the organization unit. So if I want to check my data for the country office, I can select the country office. If I want to choose for specific offices, I can select those, but I need to select until the word office appear here. Or I can use my preferred one that we click on this setting symbol, we put select levels, levels of organization unit, meaning by this is a facility level. Those levels we don't have data, and this is area office level. So by clicking here and choosing select levels, I have here the opportunity to select facility level, area level, country level. If I was regional office, could be region, or me as a global, I can go for NRC. But I'm working in Iraq, so I will go or facility level or area level. When I did this, actually, and I click on Iraq, the table will by default put all offices from Iraq and extract the data from all offices from Iraq. Again, the actual and targets, this one is one of the most important for you to choose, because if you don't select one or the other or both, GORS will add them. So your data will be actual plus targets, and this has no sense for us. So this one is one that you cannot forget. And then you select one, the other, or both. Here are the mandatory fields of the pivot table. And when we update it, there is a default organization that is the indicators will be columns, the dates will be lines, and the organization unit will be aggregated. So to change it, you need to go in layout, and you need to change the layout here. So when we talk about the column dimensions, we are talking about the different columns. So here we'll have data. Data is the indicator you are trying to see information. Actuals and targets, you have here, actual and target. The roles, you have the periods. So you can see here, the periods appear here. And in the report of filter, you have organization units is here on the top. I want to see one by one of the organization units. Per period, I want first the name of the organization unit, then the periods they reported, and then which data they reported. So then I put as row dimensions, and I leave actual and targets as columns dimensions. When I update, I have like this. Okay, in January, we have in Ambar, they reported in both indicators. There is no report on those indicators for the rest of the year. So I have lots of empty lines. So I have the option of going here on the options and choose to hide empty rows. I hide empty rows so I can see only what was reported. But imagine this, that I wanted to fix one information here for the GE 101, the number of learners enrolled. How I will find out where or how to fix it. Then you need to remember in the data entry form that we start with the location, then we put the data set we are going for, we put the period we are reporting on, and then we have the core competence and the team, if it's actual and target, and the project number. So the information I have here will not help me to reopen the data entry form and fix it. So I still needed to know which project it was reported and which core competency team reported on those indicators. To do it so, I look here for core competency here. And since sometimes, even though it's education, people can click wrongly and then report as it was ICLA or food security, I will add all core competencies. The core competency by default will appear as column. So if I do just like this and I update, it will be messy. It seems that here they did correct. Everybody reported only on education. So it's okay. So here's the target, actual, but it's a bit too messy. So then I will move core competency here. That is just to check if they did it with the correct one. Bravo, Iraq, you did it with core competence education for an education indicator. And to be sure and check the data, is still missing the project. So if I take here, I have all Iraq projects. I don't know which one is. I add all. And since I know this will appear as column, I change the layout before updating, otherwise it's getting too messy. And then I update. By doing like this, actually, I will have all the information about how the data was entered in the system. So in Ambar Office, they report both indicator of the target. They report it in January 2019 using the core competency education and for the OSHA grant IQFM 1819. Erbil entered in different dates, here actual and target and here just actual, using the core competency team education for this grant, UNICEF grant. Then I can open the data entry form and see this data there. So if I look at the data I have here, I have an Anbar and Erbil. I will go for Erbil because there is more data there. So in Iraq, I go in Erbil office. Then I want the data set for this one that is 1938, IQFM 1938. So IQFM 1938, I look which period. It was May, June, and July. So let's start with May. The project is the 1938. The core competence education, because it's the only access I have. Target is an actual, here's actual because I cannot enter target. And then where is my indicator here? Numbers of alarms in row. I have a 1233 and 1386. And I come here and I went in May, huh? So here is adding up the 1236. So let's add the disaggregation for sex. Update. It's coming. And then I can see this one, 1233 and 1386. So if I had to change my data, then I would come here and I would change my date. If for me entering the data, I had if I had the possibility to have a different core competency team, and I had to enter in the wrong one, the only way you can find out is by doing the pivot table, including the team. I could have done another mistake that is putting the wrong project. So if I had put the wrong project and entered the data, this project would have these beneficiaries reported, and this would be wrong. So to find out where it was, you need to have the project number also. So you need to have the location, the month, the indicator, the core competency team, the project, and the disaggregation if you want to find exactly where the data was entered to fix it. Any questions here? Am I alone? So this is to answer how you find the data you lost, but this answer also some other questions from Ruth. So I will redo the others. So she would like to be able to see different country offices data against a single indicator for comparative and aggregation purpose. So Ruth, she is a regional office, so she have different countries. But the principle is the same. Here I have the same indicator in Ambar and the same indicator in Erbil. So I can use it to compare data between the two offices. If I'm doing about one single indicator, then I would take this one out and I would change the layout. Since it's only one indicator, I would put this one on the top and update. So once updated here, we will have only for this indicator different locations. It's not possible to change data. I have a question here from Ahmed, ask how to change the data entering using the old way without data sets. Well, to answer this one, actually we always had a data set, but in the past you would enter here, IQ education mandatory outcomes or Iraq education mandatory, that is the output. And then you would have a period that most likely is previous to this, but whatever period you have, and then you select the project that the data was entered at the time. So if it was before, it was last year, most likely. Then you select the project, education at 12, and this one is not working because maybe it's not education. But in the past, we report using we always use a data set, actually, in the past. But before they were those two. So if you have any old data that needs to be deleted, make a service request and we will find it for you. Thank you, Oscar. So make a request and we find it, yes. So So back here, this is to answer the question that may also interest the Colombia Subregional Office and each national, that if you want to compare different countries, the only difference is that in the organization unit, you will not choose facility level, but you will choose countries. And because you have access to multiple countries, it will appear here, the countries. And you don't have to have the period here. You can also move it to the top and it will aggregate the data for the full period. And then you have only different offices and the indicator that they reported. To do it so, I would suggest to take out the subtotals because it makes it a bit more clear to see the data, compare the data by the offices. You don't have to have the project number if you are just comparing the data, but you can also have. So the other question from Ruth was, would also like to see all indicators used in a country office with associated value. This one is feasible, but sometimes it gets a bit heavy. So to have it, I would take out the project because you are looking all indicators were for a country. You come on data, you look output, and then you put in the case of global, you do GL, and it will show you all global indicators for all core competencies. You move them here, and then you have all indicators. Sometimes it happens that it will block, that is not as, if it's too heavy, you may have to go core competency for core competency at each time. I will put this here, but you choose the period you need to know. The organization units, in your case, you put country here. I will do a parallel presentation, so I will keep as facility level or offices in Iraq, but for you it would be different countries. We have already actual and target. I will keep the disaggregation. No, I will take out the disaggregation. There is one thing a bit annoying with the GORS, is that when I put disaggregation, male, female, or displacement status, I will see only individuals benefiting for it. I will not see goods delivered because they don't have disaggregation. So to see all indicators you need to do without a disaggregation, and then you do with the disaggregation when you are talking about individuals or specific services, and only those indicators having those disaggregation will appear. To see a mix of services and goods, individuals benefiting services and goods delivered, then you need to use Power BI. So this one will be a bit a heavy one. So I'm just checking. I wanted the indicators here with the organization units. I will keep the core competency only for the fun of it, and I will update this one. It may crash. I will use this time to read the next question. So Ahmed, I would suggest you to use the new data sets because even if you are in Iraq actually, the new we are advising country office to create the data sets using the new application and entering the data using these data sets. This is because the old data sets don't have all mandatory indicators that were developed in 2018. They have only those that were from 2017. So to report in all relevant mandatory indicators, you need to create a data set using the new application. And if you need any support for this, talk with me also and we can organize it. So this to see all indicators reported in, could be in an office. So we have actual and target, all indicators that were reported. You just do add all the indicators and you choose, in the case of regional office, you can choose organization, unit, country. In the case of office, you can take facility level. And here you have first the facility level, then the core competency, and then the indicator and the reported value. Doing a quick check, you can say Iraq is reporting the core competence correct inside the core competence, and this is quite good for when you need to correct the data. To do it easier, you can also take out the core competency if you don't need it. So you come here, you take it out, and then you update. And if you don't have too many offices, you have also the possibility to put the offices as columns. So here I have all indicators reported in Iraq with the office appearing first, but for comparative purpose, maybe you would prefer to have the organization unit here. And then you update and they will appear as columns. Just wait, and I hope it will not crash. No, it didn't, so really nice. Sometimes it crashed with me also. So here you can see Ambar office, actual and target. Baghdad office has no reporting on it. Then the only thing when you put the offices as columns is that you have the empty lines, because the lines will be occupied by one office but not by other. But for comparative purpose, you can see all indicators reported by everybody. So for example, here you see the number of liters of water delivered. If I had to put any disaggregation by displacement status or gender, I would not see this indicator. So this is important to keep in mind. So I think I answer all questions from Ruth's message. And the idea here, it was to show how you go and find your data entry form using the pivot table. So now I would like to leave it open for questions, clarifications. Do you have any question that I didn't answer here? Or something I didn't cover?
Hi, Erica, it's Ruth.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you for the questions. It was really kind from you.
Oh, well, it's helpful for me, so thanks a lot for answering them. Just going back to the different types of data, in which sort of circumstances or when might I use those data sets, or like the other type of groupings that there are? So data sets, yeah, event data items and program indicators. Do that have any function or something at all, or really should we just ignore them?
Just ignore them, but indicators you will use, because of the indicators normally this will be outcomes, so those you use. So if I take here, normally I go for all indicators and I use the code, but here will appear all outcomes. So these you may use, but the other three possibilities we don't use. Data sets, event data, and program indicators. This, because the HAS is, we are adapting it to GORS, but it has some features that it doesn't yet make, we don't use yet.
Okay. Just for ease, you can't hide these fields, like everything is visible all the time. You can't hide what's not.
I tried it, but I messed up with the Power BI. So I did it quite pretty. So it would have periods, organization, unit, actual and targets. Then would be a displacement status. Then would be sex, core competence, and project. And then I was just commenting with him on Shu. He said, "Oh, when you did it," I said yesterday evening. Yes, Power BI crashed. So we have some issues, but I can see with Himanshu and our developer if we can hide it. because I
Yeah,
would
exactly.
also to hide some stuff here that we don't.
Exactly. There's loads of these disaggregations. They don't get used. I think only the key ones are there, and then maybe you can add extra options if you want it, but hide it from the user interface would be good.
Yes, I agree completely, but unfortunately, the system seems to not support it too good. So, but I will take note. I will talk with Adrian, that is the one developing the app, and see if it's possible to do anything here.
Okay, great.
Yes, sorry about that. There is a, let's say that is not the most user-friendly pivot table, but once we get a hang on it and ignore it, it's okay. And also for those that were not in the morning, so we did this one. Imagine this is a root region. Here is Iraq, here is Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine. After you create your table, you can always go in favorites and save it. And then every time you open it, it will be updated until the last update that you can see by clicking on About. When you click on About, you can see time since the last data update. For the moment, we are updating once per day because we had some crashes last week, but this will change in the future. I will keep you updated on this. So here we can see that any data I entered this morning will not be here. The data I entered yesterday is appearing here. So it's always important to click on About to see the last time it was updated. Yes, Ahmed Aladi, you have a question.
Yes, actually, I have a couple questions. One is related to my previous question in the chat. Well, the issues now that we have is that when we try to re-enter the old data in the dataset that we created, we get duplicate figures. So should we just keep the old data that we did before, or should we migrate them to the new datasets? That's the first question.
Sorry, which country are you? I'm mixing up.
Yemen.
You're in Yemen. Okay.
Yes.
So Yemen was. Can I take care of your case individually? Because depending on when the data set was created, the duration of the project, I will give you different advices. If the finishing next month, then I would say we enter the data with the old way and start to create a new data set for the future. But it was really in an individual case, using a bit of common sense to not increase too much the load. So if you could send me an email with the detail about which data set you're talking about and the dates of the project, this would be fantastic.
Okay.
Okay.
I
and
will
this
do.
is for everybody. You have any specific issue, send me the information, which project it is, with the data set, and what is the issue. Because sometimes it's really on the case by case. Yeah, we need to see one by one to see how to solve it. And your second question?
It's regarding the filters on the left. There is a core competency that you can select: education, shelter, etc.
Yes.
And there is another one, core competency by data elements. Is there a difference?
Yes, this first one. So if you are looking for data that was entered wrongly, use the first one. Because this one, each GORS user belongs to a core competence team. Some belongs to more than one. So the user I'm using here belongs only for education, but most of the M&E coordinators will have all core competency teams. So this one make reference to what you enter on the data entry form. So if you enter using the wrong core competency team, then you can see here. The second one, by data element, they will take from the code of the indicator. So when you have a global indicator, for example, you have a GL, and then you have the letter of the core competency. So GLE is education, GLL is ICLA, GLF is food security. So by this coding, it will divide which core competence on this one. So this core competence based on the code, this is core competence based on which team entered the data. Sometimes a wash team, for example, education specialists, we will enter some indicators that are called WASH because it's WASH on the schools. So when you have water on the schools or toilets, it's still WASH, but the project is education. And me as an education officer, I would enter data against it because I am the one doing this project on education. So it's not only when the core competency here don't match the indicator, it's not necessarily a mistake. It could be the project has some shelter components, but it's an education project because construction of a school is shelter. So I will be an education, enter on shelter, and to track back the data, I need to use the core competency. To see the indicators, I take core competency by data element. Did that answer?
Yeah, that answered my questions. If I can add an extra question, I'm sorry for taking time from other people. It's from my experience just in the past few months working with the pivot table. When I try to extract a lot of information or to view this information, the browser crashes. Is there a way around this issue?
What I do when there is a lot of data and it crashes, then I go when I select my indicators, because here I have all indicators, but I can select my indicators, my data elements or indicators by using, for example, if I do core competency by core competency. So if I do GLC, it will be camp, GLC, it will be camp management. And then I just go for camp management. Or if I do GLE is education, F is food, livelihood and food security. So I will choose S will be shelter, W will be wash. Then I do one by one to avoid the crashing. In one country, normally, it will crash more when we include the project numbers, for example, in my experience. So if I need to know by project number everything, then I do one core competence at a time. Sorry. We are upgrading the version of GORS, and it seems that the latest version, the pivot table, is much more dynamic. So we are not yet on this version, but we are already one version up. So the pivot table will get better and better.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Any other questions? So, was it as clear as this? So I assume that is everything clear. If you have any questions, please send me. If you have any issues, report here on the Global Help Desk. Will be, sorry. You just need to come on support. If you go on support, you can report which issue you are having. If it's only questions, send me by email. I'm quite open to build a beautiful, most frequent asked questions in GORS and give you the best support I can for you. Because if I can help you, making GORS life easier, it will be a pleasure. So you come in here, if you add a new request, then you can put your title, say where is your problem, there is a project missing, you cannot find a data set, you just mark, give me a description. If you can add an attachment showing the screenshot of what you are having on your screen or the error message, then we can replicate what is going on with you here and try to find a solution. In addition, we will have some data to make some statistics to see if we are answering quick or slow, and what are the kind of issues that appear more often, so we can try to solve in the system or develop new training for you guys. So please feel free to send me a message. We are here to support you, okay?
Erika, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for this, and of course all comments, positive comments on the GORS Global Help Desk. It's a big improvement and a great source, I would say, for every one of us. And great really work. I just want to say that here in front of all other colleagues. But also what I want to ask you, Erika, and now in this, let's say, database of requests and the questions, are the people also able to see, maybe if you scroll to the right, the answers or the resolution to the problem as well, or not for now?
Yeah, we are adding, actually I will add an extra column, but where the people put the description, we are, when it's if it's just to create a new grant, we create the grant. But when there's something that we have to do, we are putting a remark. So we are putting the help desk and the answer of what happened. And most of the communication to the person that the request is going by email. So the person
in terms of like learning
that is solved. So you don't need to come back here to see if it was solved. We are sending an email.
Okay, but in terms of, yeah, it sounds very good, because but if people are asking also if they don't know something, and if actually the issue that you resolve, let's say for Oscar, will help someone else in Ukraine or in Lebanon, is there a chance for people to kind of like see, and instead of, it would kind of reduce the burden to some extent to you and help desk, if they could look at the solutions and description of what happened and how it was solved. So that's what I'm thinking.
This one I'm putting on the frequent asked questions. So I have more 3 questions to add here, and I'm asking people to just put the comment with the questions if they have. I receive an email, so I can come and put the question and the answer. The first one is from your region, Ishneshna. So it was Sumiat, she came with the question, and I said, okay, this is relevant. But we are still creating the frequent asked questions, and we organize by theme to help you not have to wait until an answer. Up to now, what I have on the support, it was more at technical issues.
I see. No, super. Yeah, very clear, Erika. Thanks, and very useful.
Thank you very much. And this today it was the pilot of the GORS Day on a Wednesday. So we will have the next one on September, the 18th September, and we'll do the best to communicate in the best possible way with everybody that could be interested. And the idea is that the people will tell me what they want to learn. So it's more than me being here just for the questions, but we will find topics. So please send me what you would like to see and what you would like to have a more detailed presentation on. We can go in different levels, beginner level, more advanced level, and maybe, make more exchange of experience and knowledge here in GORS.
So one more time, thank you very much, you all, for participating, and see you in the next GORS Day on a Wednesday on September 18. Thank you. See you. Bye.